Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayishlach, Tavshin Pei Beis. I'd like to dedicate this evening's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shalamis Rabinowitz, Shalamis Bas Rav Yaakov Eliezer. Okay, so Yaakov has left Haran. He's going into Eretz Yisrael. He has gone into Eretz Yisrael to return to his father's home. And he knows that he's has to face his brother Esav. So the Torah tells us, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav el Esav achiv aretz seir sedei Edom. And Yaakov sent the malachim to ahead of him, in front of him, to Esav, his brother, land of Seir, to the field of Edom. Sent him a message. We're going to focus on the words malachim. It says Yaakov sent malachim. What are malachim? So the Medrash actually has two explanations. Malachim sounds like angels. That's the word that we use for an angel. And that is what Rashi cites when explaining the word malachim. It means that Yaakov actually sent angels to Esau to deliver the message. According to different opinion in the Medrash, malachim means the word messenger, which is why an angel is called a malach, because it means a messenger. So we have two opinions in the Medrash as to whether Yaakov sent angels or Yaakov sent regular, people. And Rashi works with the first opinion that it's angels. That's how Rashi feels fits in best into the basic interpretation, the pshat of the verse. Now, Reb Moshe Feinstein Zatzal asked the following question: if Yaakov seemingly had a choice of sending angels or sending people, then why would he send angels? Sending angels means that Yaakov is using a miraculous supernatural means of getting something done. And we know that when you have the choice of getting something done naturally or supernaturally, if you create a situation, so to speak, that you need a miracle to save yourself, which means you put yourself in a situation of needing a miracle or using a miracle, that actually can deduct from your mitzvahs. That could use up some of your merits. And therefore, it seems odd that Yaakov would choose to use angels when he could use people. So Moshe Feinstein answered in the following way. His answer is that there are people, we know that when we, as typical human beings, we function, that what's natural, what's typical, what always happens is something that we're not amazed by it necessarily. We take it for granted, or we just kind of assume it's going to happen. And a miracle, a supernatural occurrence, is something that we don't expect, doesn't happen routinely, and therefore makes a much greater impression upon us. And actually, a miracle awakens us to the fact that there is a God in the world, that nature doesn't just run on its own, but rather nature is being run by the Creator, who decides what he wants to do, what he doesn't want to do. And the truth is, as Ramban Nachmanides writes in Parshas Bay, that a supernatural miracle reveals to us and reminds us that the world is run by Hashem. And that when the natural world is just running routinely, it's not just running routinely. Hashem desires for it to run in a routine manner, in a manner that repeats itself. And then there are times where he changes the whole order, and that's when we realize that's where he is. But nature is essentially a miracle as much as a miracle is, because they're both happening because the world runs by the will of Hashem. And when he wants it to run in a way that appears natural and routine, that's the way it runs. And when he wants it to run differently, he decides it should run differently. So essentially, they're the same. But as human beings, it's hard for us to be able to actually, it's hard for us to see that, because when something just repeats itself over and over again, it seems just to be happening on its own. And it seems that we take for granted that that's the way it's just going to be. A person who is an Adam HaShalem, a fully righteous person, a person who reaches perfection, wholeness, is a person who actually sees nature and miracles the same way. That's a person who realizes and truly is cognizant of the fact that everything happening in the world every day is a miracle. We say in davening, "Hamachadish b'tuva b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh b'reishis." Hashem renews the creation every day. Every day the world is renewed. We don't notice it because it just seems to be going on its own, but Hashem is constantly willing the world to exist, and every time he wills the world to exist, the world is being created over and over again. So there are individuals who come to realize with the fact that they're the same. The miracle is the same. Nature is the same. It makes no difference to them. They always recognize that everything is coming from Hashem, and that the world is constantly, its existence and how it's running only happens because Hashem wills it every single second for it to be that way. So for a person like that, that was Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov was a person who saw everything the same, not in a bad way. He didn't take miracles for granted, but rather he didn't take nature for granted. And therefore, for Yaakov to use an angel, not a big deal. A person who sees an angel as supernatural, or who sees a miracle, as something different than always, is a person we say that, well, if this is something unusual for you, something special for you, then there are times where if a miracle occurs for you, you may lose your merits. You may have used up your merits for it. But for a person who a miracle in nature is the same, they're all nature, they're all the same thing. They're all part of it's all part of Hashem's acts. And for that person, there's no difference between the two. In the same way nature doesn't take away from their merits, neither does a miracle. A miracle only takes away from your merits if it is something unique to you, something special to you. And not say that every miracle is that way, but there are situations where it'll be that way. But for Yaakov to go ahead and use a miracle, to use an angel, that's not something out of the ordinary for him, because everything is a miracle by Yaakov. And therefore, there was no problem for him to use angels. And for the person who lives this way, who sees everything as miraculous, then miracles, for them to use miracles and for miracles to happen for them, not a big deal. The Gemara in Taanis tells a famous story of the sage of Chanina ben Dosa, who one time walked into his house. It was right before Shabbos, and his daughter was very upset. He said, "What's the matter?" And she said that instead of bringing olive oil for the purposes of having Shabbos candles light, she used vinegar. And that was the only thing in the house. That she brought the wrong thing. And now they're going to be stuck on Shabbos without lights. Chadin said, "My daughter, don't let it bother you. He who tells oil to burn can tell vinegar to burn." And that's what happened. The vinegar lit. Not only did it burned through a whole Shabbos, they were able to make Havdalah on it. Now, ben Dosa, he just decided to use a miracle. But that was not a problem for him. Because, as he said, by him, vinegar, oil, if it's going to burn, it's all the same thing. It's no different. Oil burning is a miracle. It's all an act of God. And therefore, for him, the vinegar can burn too. And that was Yaakov Avinu. That was our forefather Yaakov. For him, it wasn't a problem using the angels. Didn't take away from his merits. Because for him to use an angel, that's like using anything else in the world. Because he is cognizant and truly believes and realizes and lives that nature is a miracle. It's all the act of Hashem. So that's how Rav Moshe Feinstein answers this question. But Rav Moshe Feinstein does not address, but why did he use the angels? Why did he choose to use angels? Now, it's possible to say that the end of last week's Parsha tells us that Yaakov met angels. And if the angels were there, so he used them. There's probably some benefit of using them over people. Let's see how other commentaries deal with this question. The Arach Chaim, commentary of Arach Chaim, asks as to why the verse states, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav. And Yaakov sent angels in front of him, ahead of him. Why do you need to know that for? Yaakov sent angels to Esav. That's it. What's the lefanav, in front of him? So the Orach Chaim answers that the Torah is actually answering the question that we have. Why did Yaakov use angels? Why did he use the angels? So there's two steps. Step number one is that instead of translating the words Yaakov sent angels lefanav in front of him, it actually means Yaakov sent angels lefanav that were in front of him. As we said, in last week's Parsha says Yaakov met angels. No mention about what these angels did, said, nothing. So Yaakov understands that these angels have come to him to use them. That's what they were there for. He understood if the angels are here, that they're there for him to use. So because the angels were in front of him, he understood he had permission to use them. And why did he need to use them? And that is explained in the next words. El Esav Achiv. He sent the angels to Esav, his brother. Yaakov needed to send angels to Esav. People could be a problem. People may not work. Number one, Esav was a very respectful and powerful person. He could decide that these people, if Yaakov would send people, could say, they're not worthy to see me. But if he sent angels, and from the commentaries, it's pretty clear that these weren't like, the angels who appeared to Avram, they appeared like Arabs. These appeared like angels. They appeared awesome and strong. It wasn't just, disguised as regular people. And therefore, if they come, it's not going to refuse them. Even more, it says the Orach Chaim. If Yaakov sends people, maybe Esav will kill them. They'll never go back. And then Esav will surprise Yaakov. Angels can't do that too. And another thing, if the angels would come, Esav would be quite frightened and quite astonished from them. And that would make him scared to start up with Yaakov. So there was a strong purpose in sending angels. Number one, Esav couldn't refuse them. Number two, Esav couldn't kill them. And number three, they would scare Esav to realize, don't start up with Yaakov. And the Torah tells us that Yaakov sent the messengers to Esav, his brother. We know Esav is his brother. Why are we saying that? So the Orach Chaim, in one of his interpretations, explains, because, whatever these angels were, whatever they were, I shouldn't say whatever were, whatever they were supposed to do, it really depends on Esav's attitude. Is Esav being an Esav, the wicked Esav, or is he being Yaakov's brother? Because if he does portray himself as Yaakov's brother, then the angels can approach things differently. If the angels sense that he's not approaching Yaakov as a brother, then the angels can make their strong impression upon Esav. So therefore, Yaakov sent messengers because in case Esav wants to pretend that he looks like a brother, and really doesn't mean to be a brother, which people can't necessarily see through, angels could. So that was another benefit. That was another reason to send the angels. But it starts with the fact that Yaakov realizes he has permission to use the angels because they're there. What else are they there for? What else did they come there for? And he has the reason to send the angels because, as we said before, we have a couple of reasons. Number one, Esav can't refuse them. Number two, Esav can't kill them. Number three, they would scare Esav. And number four, they'd be able to tell whether Esav means to be brotherly or to be an enemy. Now, based on this, we have an answer to Moshe Feinstein's question. Why was Yaakov using a supernatural means when it could possibly take away from his merits? The answer, number one, would be, well, as Orach Chaim says, the fact that the angels were here meant that they were there to be used. So we have permission to use them. That's why Hashem sent them there. Number two, perhaps, if you have a specific reason to use angels, then maybe you don't lose your merits. But again, we really have the first point of the Orach Chaim that says, which is, if the angels were there, that under Yaakov stood, they were meant for him to use. they're meant for him to use, then you don't lose your merits for that. So that's the Orach Chaim's approach. Now I can share with you another approach to at least why Yaakov sent angels. And this comes from a commentary called Uriah Shlomo, commentary on Rashi. He also is bothered by the word lefanav. Or actually, he's explaining that this whole explanation of angels is based on the word lefanav. What does it mean? He sent angels lefanav ahead of him. What is the word lefanav? Where does lefanav come in? Therefore, he says like this. He says that Yaakov sent the malachim ahead of him. Means to say that Yaakov's original plan was just to send the angels. Because if it's angels, then angels should be able to deal with Esav in a way that Esav will not bother Yaakov. That's what he expected. So he sent the angels lefanav, ahead of him. They weren't meant to come back. They were just sent ahead of him. Because Yaakov figured as angels, they'll just settle the issue and Esav won't be a problem. At the end of it, that's not what happened. They did come back and they said Esav is coming to greet you with 400 men. Why did it happen that way, says the Vayishlach. So he says, number one, because Hashem wanted Yaakov to experience a nes nigla, an open miracle, which I think means that he didn't want it to be that Yaakov should send the angels and the angels will take care of Esav without Yaakov seeing it. Hashem wanted Yaakov to actually experience and see how Hashem saved him from Esav. That's number one. Number two, he says, we know that the Gemara, the Talmud tells us that the matriarchs were all born barren. They couldn't have children. Why? Why did Hashem want them to be barren and then have to perform a miracle to have them be able to have children? Because God desires the prayers of the righteous, and therefore he brings them challenges so that they'll turn in prayer to Hashem. And that's exactly what happened by Yaakov. When Esav comes and Yaakov is afraid of what may happen, one of the things that Yaakov does, as the Torah describes, is he cries out to Hashem, he prays to Hashem. So the Shlomo wants to say that the reason why the angels didn't take care of Esav and Esav came was to scare Yaakov so that he would pray, because Hashem wants to hear the prayers of the righteous. So here's another explanation as to why angels. Why angels? Because of the fact that Yaakov was hoping that the angels could take care of Esav. Regular people couldn't do that. How are they taking care of the Rishlamah doesn't say. But as angels, they could deal with it. They could find a way to make sure that Esav doesn't bother Yaakov. That's why he sent angels. Only angels would seemingly be the guarantee to get that done. Doesn't deal with Moshe finds his question, like, was it inappropriate? But again, not inappropriate. Was it something that would take away from his merits? But again, if there's if the angels are available, right, and you have a reason for the angels to be used, right, which clearly, according to everybody, the angels were available to Yaakov, and he has a reason to use them, a very specific reason to use them, then perhaps you're not going to lose your merits. That's not the Vayishlach that's not what he's dealing with. Vayishlach is dealing with why did Yaakov send angels, and according to him, it was about trying to deal with Esav without Yaakov having to meet up with him. Okay. Now, on these words, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, so we have Rashi telling us that it means angels. There is another place in the Torah where we find the exact same phrase, just with a different person. This is in Bamidbar. We have Moshe sending messengers. The pasuk reads, Vayishlach Moshe Malachim, and Moshe sent messengers, Mikadesh, from the place called Kadesh in the desert, where the Jewish people were. And he sent these Malachim, El Melech Edom, to the king of Edom, the descendants of Esav. Koyamar Achicha Yisrael. So says your brother Yisrael, you know all the troubles that have found us, and we're on our way to the land of Israel. Can we come through your land? And the king of Edom refused. Here we have Moshe sending malachim. The same way it says Vayishlach Yaakov malachim, it says Vayishlach Moshe malachim. No one here says those were angels. There is no discussion about angels there. There, malachim means messengers. So how come by Yaakov we translate it as angels, but by Moshe we don't? So the commentary on Rashi called Gur Aryeh from the Maharal gives a very interesting explanation. It's a very deep explanation. And the explanation is like this. What we see, what we are seeing here by Yaakov Avinu, and we see that by Abraham, is that by the Avos, by the forefathers, for them to be able to have angels available, for angels to frequent them, is not surprising, because our Avos, our forefathers, our patriarchs, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, were very, very important and significant to Hashem. I'm going to read you from his words. Because the fathers are the starting point, are the root of the children. Our patriarchs are considered the foundation of the world. For they are the source of the Jewish people. So we have to see Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's not just our ancestors, but as the ancestors of the Jewish people that are the purpose of the world. They are the beginning of the purpose of the world, makes them the foundations of the world. Angels that are created for the purpose of guarding the world and running the world for Hashem, they are his operatives to get things done. They're found with the forefathers. For the forefathers are the foundations of the creation. When it comes to Moshe, although we compare his face like the sun, that's how great he was. At the end of the day, he's not from the patriarchs, he's not from the fathers. He's not the starting point. The fathers are only those that are considered the beginning, and it's from them that the world was established. The world comes to its establishment it starts coming to its establishment with the roots of the Jewish people. Now, it's interesting to get asked, well, maybe it should only be Abraham, not Yitzchak and Yaakov. That would be a different discussion, why each one is considered the Avos. But they are. Each one of them is the foundation of the Jewish people. Each one created the Jewish people. We are all created from them. Each one of them gave into the Jewish people each one had their unique characteristic to contribute to the creation of the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are the purpose of the world. He doesn't say that in his commentary. That's my understanding of it. The Jewish people are the purpose of the world, and therefore the roots of that purpose are considered the roots, the foundations of the world. The angels, what are they for? They're for operating, therefore getting things done in the world. Well, if that's what they're there to get things done in the world, to have things happening in the world, then of course they're available to the foundations of the world. But not Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is not a father. He's not a foundation. He's very great, but he's not the foundation. He's not a father. And he brings down a medrash that says, we see from the medrash, before the world was created, Hashem already had in mind for the patriarchs to be created. This idea that before Hashem created the world, he had in mind the Avos. Whatever that means exactly, it does mean that before creating the world, the fact that the Avos were in mind means that the world was created because there will be others. They are the foundation of creation. Creation is founded upon them because they are the ikar, because they are ikar ha'olam. The Maharal writes, the forefathers, the patriarchs, are the ikar ha'olam. I think he means the root of the world, or one of the main, or the main element of the world. Why? Yisrael, because from them that the Jewish people were established. And that's why the angels were common with the others. So Moshe Rabbeinu, no one says Moshe Rabbeinu sent angels. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have angels available to him whenever he wants, but the others, they'll have angels available because of who they are. And because they are the foundations of the world is founded upon them. Therefore, the angels, whose job is to carry out what the world needs, are available to them. And then he brings down a fascinating medrash, where he points out again, here specifically, regarding angels, difference between Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and between Moshe Rabbeinu. Because the medrash says that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Mount Sinai, he went to heaven to receive the Torah, and the angels noticed Moshe Rabbeinu there. The wording he uses, they wanted to push him out. What are you doing here? What are you human being? What are you doing here amongst us? You don't belong here. So the way the Maharal brings down, when he went up to heaven, the angels wanted to push him out, wanted to push him around and push him out. They didn't want him there. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He made Moshe Rabbeinu's face appear like the face of Abraham. And then he said to the angels, wait a minute, didn't you visit him in his tent? Parshas Vayera, didn't you go visit Abraham in the tent? Look, you're okay with Abraham. The point of the Medrash is that Hashem was trying to say to the angels that Moshe Rabbeinu is a descendant of Abraham. He has Abraham in him. And the same, you're okay with Abraham, you should be okay with Moshe. But initially they weren't, because he's Moshe, he's not Abraham. You see clearly that the angels are comfortable and available and ready to be with Abraham, not Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore, by the angels, when the word malachim appears, Moshe sent malachim, not angels. When it says Yaakov sent malachim, those mean angels. And that's the difference. Because the Aves are the Yesod Ha'olam. They are the foundation of the world. Because the Jewish people comes from them. They are the Jewish people. The purpose of the world means the world was founded upon the foundation, the roots, who were Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, from whom the Jewish people came from. And therefore, angels are always available to them. This also would answer Moshe Feinstein's question. For Yaakov to use an angel, it's not that's nature. It's natural for the others to use angels, because as foundations of the world, they use angels. So if that's the natural way for them to operate with angels, then of course it's not going to take away any of their merits. So this really shows us again, we talk every day in the Shemona Esrei. We start off Elokei Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Baruch Atah Hashem. We start off Shemona Esrei. Blessed you Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avosenu, our God, the God of our forefathers. Elokei Avraham, the God of Avraham. Elokei Yitzchak, the God of Yitzchak. Elokei Yaakov, the God of Yaakov. The Avos, we're always talking about the Avos. And the way that we look at the Avos as our Avos, as the greatest individuals of our history, of who we are, is because they were our foundation. And if they were our foundation, then they were very, very, very unique and holy individuals. Only they are the fathers. After that, no one else is considered the fathers. The tribes, to a certain degree, are also considered fathers to each tribe. But for the Jewish people as a whole, together, there's only three fathers: Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were the foundations. They, in their unique greatness, they were the foundations of the Jewish people, and as the Maharal says, of the world. And that is why, for them to have angels, No big deal. That's the natural order for them. That's a way of how we see the greatness of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for listening.